Here's a unique way as a copywriter, marketing development consultant, or other type of business development professional, you can very quickly create services and have a solid offer for your target audience. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. So very often you'll see on the website, if you're a coaching member, a bunch of tutorials. So you don't see these. They're hidden from the general public, but on adbriefings.co.uk/courses, you will see there's business website profits. There's the archive of the newsletter. There are website management insights, social media classifieds. These are all products that I've created in the past as part of consulting assignments. So you might be chasing sales letters and press releases and writing lead generation pieces, and maybe even you've started writing campaigns, but have you ever considered that the insight and knowledge you have can help in-house departments create better marketing? Now, I've created these materials over time, like your first information product. I've created these for subscribers. Also, things like social media classifieds. It's actually a system for using social media like classified ads and how to measure and track. I created a lot of these for my clients. I've also created them when I hired staff to support my activities that I did for those clients. I basically am taking and packaging up all of the intellectual property necessary to understand what I do for clients, but also to do what I did for clients, and then wrapped around that, the success stories of clients. So we essentially have a information product. Here's my point. A lot of folks go through and they say, oh, social media classifieds. They click on it and it gives them a unique system that turns social media into research and testing platform. You can attract more qualified leads and buyers for less. And they say, well, that's interesting, but I don't see a course here. They just see a description of a course. Now, I've got a binder on the shelf that is the actual course. And if someone contacted me, and this is the value add that you can have, if someone contacted me, I can actually set up either a 3-day session, a 4-week session, or I can consult on their project. So here's how it works. They wouldn't know I had that available if I didn't have the small excerpt online. But if I created a full-blown tutorial or product without any customers to share it with, then I'm going to spend a lot of money up front and have very little to show for it. So what I do is I write in the newsletter about social media classifieds. I talk about this in my other newsletters because there are high-income professionals who want to be seen and heard on LinkedIn, and they didn't realize that they can do LinkedIn sponsored ads. And that LinkedIn sponsor ads done a certain way can draw attention to their articles, their materials, and other things, which introduces them into copywriting. So there's one audience there. So I'll write about social media classifieds to that one audience and say, oh, by the way, if you're interested in more details about how to do this, send your questions to my office. And you've probably noticed that. I'm very open to say, if you've got questions, if I haven't done a good job to explain, you can raise your hand and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Now, I do answer people's questions and then I add that to the social media classifieds, or sometimes people ask questions that I've answered before. So I'll take it out of the report social media classifieds and then send it to the person to answer the question. At the end of that, I say, oh, by the way, this is an excerpt from a larger report, 47 pages, 25 pages, whatever number of pages it is. And if you're interested, we have a copy available for sale, and I give them the link. Now, I've got way more products that are not complete and just kind of like that collection of notes that are been, for maybe one client, we wrote a procedural, another client, we wrote a different procedural, and then I wrote a descriptive or I did a presentation. So I might have audio. Well, I can package all that together and say, hey, look, for $95, I'd be happy to send you the whole kit. And then I just digitally send them the kit. Now, this isn't a product listed on the website. And maybe somebody says, hey, look, $95 sounds interesting, and they buy it. I never hear from them again. But you can go one step further. So you can have a value-added service where you launch a soft product. Now, what do I mean by a soft product? It is literally a package of other materials you put together, maybe a couple feature-length articles, maybe a couple recordings of webinars that you've done on certain topics. Now, I know a lot of you folks are trying to market yourself by doing webinars, by doing teleseminars, by writing reports, and then you've done all this work up front, but you've got nobody to share it with. So I kind of flip the script. I write a sales letter first, And then I digest the sales letter into lead generation pieces to build a list full of leads. I ask the leads what questions they have, because that's part of consultative selling. I want to know what their interests are. And then I use responses to their interest to lead them into either a finished report, a larger product, such as done with you, or a service that I might provide. So what kind of reports would you write? Well, if you're doing social media management, come up with something about social media. And by the way, I do joint ventures with people. So if you have a book in draft, I can help you finish the book. We'll co-author the book and we'll set up the same model around it. Now, you'll end up in the future with a number of these lead funnels that drive to maybe an autoresponder. And then as you've developed product with the prospect, you can then offer the product to them, like a product launch, Jeff Walker's product launch. But even better, you can package these materials up the best you can, not spending a lot of time with them, and then go find corporate clients who want to either receive the materials as training or a demonstration of your value. A lot of these materials I give away for free. I get GE contacting me, and GE wants to know whether or not I could do a project. I say, well, I'm pretty busy right now. Here's an example of the type of work that you're looking for. And by the way, here's a little report I wrote for a client that has the procedural for getting that type of job done. Now, you might be saying, well, if you tell them how to do the job, they may not hire you. Well, that's perfectly fine. I got enough people in the queue that I don't really need to chase them. But ultimately, if I sent them a copy of my book, I sent them a copy of testimonials, I sent them a shock and awe type package that they can go through and understand my value to them, then 9 times out of 10, you get hired. But here's the point. Some of these people, and I saw Mitch Axelrod do this, by the way. Mitch Axelrod will have front-end people who set up the lead, qualify the lead, and then the highly qualified leads go to him to discuss the program, and then he pitches them on like a $20,000 program. And because he's able to build this program for the corporation or the larger company, that company can use it time and time again. So like my courses, for example, if a client wants to, and I used to do a lot of this, but website management, how to handle high volumes of traffic and then reduce the cost of managing your website, how to keep your website more reliable. I used to do a training on this. And so someone would say, okay, I need training. I would record the training I give to their group. I would record I'd create outlines and materials. I would talk with their engineers. I might even interview their engineers so that we can capture best practices. I might create a few process documents. I do a little bit of business process management. And then all that together, we come up with a package and I give it to the client. Now, after a couple, they paid me, but after a couple years, I can take pieces out of that package and I can make it available as a tutorial on the website. So on the website, if you go in, it might be unlocked for you. I'm not sure, but website management insights, I actually have a funnel management dashboard that my team uses to manage funnels. It has links to Google Tag Manager and LinkedIn Campaign Manager, all the little tools that we use. And then an editorial calendar dashboard that has our idea, draft, review, publish, promote type of links so people can go fast track to where they need to go. So it seems to the outsider that it's a little bit unorganized. It seems there's a lot of topics, but there's all these little hooks. Click here for more information about such and such. They opt in. I follow up with the opt-in. Actually, on the main page of Ad Briefing's copywriting tips, it says, never miss a resource, tool, or insights for writing copy that sells. Somebody puts in their email. I tend to see most of the people who come through. I'll do a quick research on them, or somebody on my team will do quick research, and then I will start interacting when it's appropriate, or I'll have somebody on the team interact when it's appropriate. And a lot of times that interaction is simply a news article about a project I just finished. Actually, I was writing a news article earlier to send out as a letter that is basically what top performers know that others do not. The secrets of what's getting in the way of your peak performance. And I basically just test copy. And then I might write an article about the mistakes that common people make that keeps them from being exceptional. There's one article. And then another article, 12 things top performers do that most do not. And then by the end of the year, I might have 6 articles to add to that report. And then if I find a corporate client that's like, look, hey, we got salespeople and I want them to be peak performers and I want you to come in and train them, I have something to train them, at least an outline. And then I can add additional materials. Now, it's a little ad hoc. If I was an information marketer and wasn't, and this is the truth, a lot of these information marketers don't have real jobs. They just basically write information all the time and they struggle for years. But I found that you can actually sell the service with an outline and then do the service to fill in the outline to create the product. It didn't make any sense to me at first until I heard Frank Kern say it for the third time. And I had been doing it for years, but I was missing some nuances. But ultimately, you can even start a newsletter just to write a book. The feedback from the people on the newsletter will help you make sure the book is right. And if nobody buys the newsletter, then don't bother to write the book. Can you see how this works? It's part of the optimization techniques that we teach over at Inside Strategic Relations. And really, it is thinking about the end result. The end result is not an information product. The end result is not another service to offer. The end result is a client who stays, pays, and refers. So if you had a quick little guidebook to writing sales letters, now that's too generic. It might need to be a guidebook to writing sales letter for your SAS software. A guidebook for writing sales letters. Or do you even need a sales letter for your cloud computing platform? And then you go get a list of 100 people who have cloud computing platforms, and you start sending them a letter a month that introduces ideas and concepts that might be useful to their situation, demonstrating that you understand their situation, and that if they had any questions about this, you're the person to turn to. When they turn to you, you ask questions. You do a consultative sell. What's the challenges you're facing today? How have you approached those challenges? What didn't work about those challenges? What would you like to have had happen? Oh, by the way, I have a resource. By the way, I have a service. By the way, I can help solve that problem for you. Folks, for some reason, my podcast is not getting traction. I share with you insights that work, that create hundreds of thousands of dollars for myself and hundreds and millions of dollars for my clients. I'm not doing this for charity. I'm essentially doing it as I've described to build components for larger programs and reports. So when I get hired for a client to optimize a business process, I've actually got manuals on optimizing business process that I use as reference. I don't start from scratch. I want you to understand this. But for some reason, the people who I guess people would rather hear the dream. They'd rather get pitched the fantasy of write a report and make $1 million. Yes, I'm doing the work once and making money from it many times, but I'm doing it in a way that's actually very systematic. Even though the people who visit the website or get a letter in the mail or hear me on a webinar or interview are only seeing one engagement. Every engagement is direct response. I'm not writing articles on my website for my health. I'm writing them because when you raise your hand and ask your questions, it helps me zero in on what you want, what problems you have, and what challenges I can help you solve. And then there'll always be some point where you'll raise your hand and say, hey, look, I'd like some help with this. And that's why I'm engaged pretty consistently with multiple clients. And many of the clients say, hey, look, could you do this for me? And I say, great. We start at $39,000. Let's outline the project and get a statement of work signed and get started right away. You know, that's the end result. Ultimately, what we're doing is we ask questions. Well, what is the outcome that you're looking for? How would this benefit your organization? What are the characteristics of a success? What are the characteristics of a failure? What things have you done in the past that worked that you'd like to keep doing? All that's the content that you would want to put in a really good book. But again, it's necessary to set up the value you'll deliver, to find out if you even want the project. But again, it adds one more thing to your arsenal of offers for clients that solve problems. Now, here's the last thing. I know you might do all this to write a sales letter, but have you written 3 or 4 sales letters for the same type of audience? And so maybe you write for affluent buyers. Could you write a guide for 37 things you must know when selling to the affluent? And then offer that guide to target people. And then those people will raise their hand and say, write me a letter. We're clustering information. We're organizing it so that we can reuse it internally. Because every one of these reports, I've used it internally 5, 6, 7 times. I've refined it. I've tested it. I've repackaged it and sold it to clients who use it on a day-to-day basis, far beyond what my little company could do. Can you see how this works? And again, of course, my communications may not be clear. Maybe folks don't like my voice. Maybe the podcast is not being marketed correctly because I'm so busy working with actual paying clients. I could beg you and say, oh, please do me a favor and pass along this podcast to your friends. But then again, I could just go get a mailing list. And when this topic comes up for that audience, I send them a letter and say, look, you might be wondering how you can turn your intellectual property and insights into products you can sell. Maybe you have a high-ticket solution and people don't understand it, but you have great explanation and demonstrative materials that if they were only in front of the right people, they would raise their hand and buy what you have immediately. Well, I've done a podcast about that you might be interested in. Click the link below. Do you see how this works? There's little tiny space ads everywhere in all of my content, offering the next value, the next solution, and when you go get it, you move towards that goal you have. Folks, I don't know how to make it work. I don't really care if I've got a lot of podcast subscribers, again, because I'm using a system that benefits the objective of the business. The business's objective is to solve problems for clients, not a bunch of customers. I don't care how many people buy my book at Amazon. I want clients with a customer lifetime value of hundreds of thousands of dollars with a real problem to solve. You know, I'm making notches on my pistol. I'm fishing for whales. And maybe you've struggled in the past because you haven't fished for whales. You're just happy to get that next press release, that next sales letter. Oh, please, I just wrote a sales letter for them. Please ask me to write lead generation materials because I've already done all the research. Well, flip the script. Do a consultative approach. Pitch both the sales letter and 2 or 3 lead articles because it's the same research. Why should they go out and hire somebody else to do lead generation materials when you've already done the research? Folks, if you have any questions about what I'm sharing here or anywhere else on the Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips website or any of my materials, don't give me a call. I don't want to talk to you. But you can email me or you can visit www.adbriefings.co.uk and ask your questions. I want you to write the question down so that I can, again, I just told you what I do with it, but also so you can think about the question to make sure it's worth an answer. And ultimately, I'll send you an answer, might even send you some draft materials. Ultimately, we're collaborating on this stuff whether you know it or not. But it helps you get solid, practical, and applicable results so that you can transform business relationships into profits and write copy that sells.